Okay, then I guess let's get it started. Relaxed version of the Wano Report. So
the normal
welcome
Wano
everyone.
Report.
Yeah, welcome everyone to the late night version, for me at least, of the Wano Report. Episode
Reminder
19.
that Ohara is in Europe.
Yes, mind the time difference. I actually okay. So before I go into the intro, I actually saw a really funny comment in the last podcast where people were asking if the two of us are related. Did you see that?
I did see that. Yeah,
you should put that up. I thought that was really funny. I was like, close enough. We're basically
we are not
the same
related.
I think I just commented that like, yeah.
I'm an Indian
Don't
person.
spoil the surprise.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to start over?
No, of course. No, that doesn't matter. No people. Not my white
Ohara
privileges.
does not want to reveal anything about
ruining my success on YouTube.
About his true identity.
I said maybe you're like either one of us might just be adopted, so that's possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry for the a little bit unconventional intro, but welcome to the Wano Report episode 20. Oh no, 19. Shit, no, I fucked it up. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, now we gotta start over.
No, it's okay. We can just leave that in. Let's leave that in. That's fine. Yeah, dude, one to go till episode 20. How do you feel about that?
No, I didn't even think about that. I haven't been keeping track of the numbers too well, so
yeah.
I guess 20 is a big milestone. I feel like it's been more, to be honest, but 20 is a lot.
It feels more, but then again, 20 is quite a bunch. I think I don't even have... I have like 80 videos on my channel or something, so...
Oh, wow. Wait, you have 80 videos?
I think so. Something like that. I'm not sure.
Videos? I must have like 100. No, because I've deleted some.
Okay.
Oh, and I forgot you do chapter reviews regularly. I was like, there's no way you did that many,
No.
analysis.
No. Not the big ones. But yeah. No, I think 20 is a good number. And I think I like where the podcast is going. Quality is rising. We have better audio. Also, we have like a couple of announcements, I guess, for you guys. Well, it's just one, basically, that we are now going to start looking into making this podcast available for you on other platforms, so you can listen to it on, I don't know yet where exactly, but probably places like Spotify, Google Podcast, maybe iTunes. I think, iTunes Podcast will also be, Apple Podcasts will be available. So we'll look into that. We will let you know once that is available. A lot of you guys have been asking for that, so we will make sure to comply with your wishes, of course. And we really appreciate that so many of you are now regularly tuning into this.
Yeah.
Not bad, right?
No, I mean, we are pretty sure at this point that basically, for a lot of you, it's actually who watch this at work. Or on car rides and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure you've been voicing that that's like the least convenient way to do a podcast. So yeah, hopefully this just makes it a lot easier, much easier to access, makes it more convenient to listen to, etc.
I agree. And like, I personally am someone who often just listens to a lot of videos on YouTube, and I'm definitely always annoyed to have to keep the video open in the background. So I definitely understand where everyone's coming from. We'll be working on that. So look forward to that, but don't forget to still come to YouTube and like these videos once we have done it, so we can keep going.
Yeah, no, that'll still help.
And yeah, apart from that, we're also looking to improve our quality on the podcast, keep it in a casual vibe, but at the same time, we are planning to broaden a little bit the variety of topics we're going to talk about. We're also looking to get more interesting new guests on the podcast as well, to give you guys new points of views on One Piece and other anime, manga, and non-anime and manga related things. So look forward to that. Also, a big shout out again to Revujo for creating our wonderful thumbnail again. I'm really happy that we have a continuous style now for our thumb. I think that this really helps make the podcast pop out a little bit more.
Yeah, big thanks to Revujo.
Yeah. So make sure to check him out on Twitter, on Instagram. The links are in the description below. And as always, also make sure to check us out on Insta. Well, you can check out me on Instagram. Are you on Instagram, Morj?
No.
Not really.
Not with the YouTube channel.
Okay. Do you want to put out your personal Instagram?
No, I think I'm good.
Are you good? You sure?
Okay. I think I'm good.
Yeah, so all links are in the description below. And I'd say, we get into this non-chapter podcast this week. We're free to do whatever. Crazy times. Podcast over.
Might not talk about One Piece at all.
Yeah, why not talk about, I don't know. No,
Pokemon?
Why not talk, well, we decided a little bit to talk a little bit about doing a improvised analysis together, right?
Yeah.
Are you still up for that?
Yeah, I can do that.
I mean, we talked about it like 5 minutes ago, so...
Yeah, I seem to recall us deciding that because we had nothing else to talk about.
Yeah. Are you still up for that? No?
Yeah.
Fuck. What are we doing now? Yeah, so we thought a nice topic might be to talk about what makes One Piece. Yeah, that's also a good series.
One Piece.
But what makes One Piece such a mysterious, or what creates the mystery? Is that okay? I fucked up the title. Yeah. I'm gonna let you choose the title.
Yeah.
What sounds good?
Shit, I don't know. Yeah, something about mystery.
What makes One Piece so good at mystery? I guess is how we phrased it. That sounds good. That sounds like a title that could work. So where should we start, man? Okay, I'm sure this will be something good. Should we just start by collecting thoughts a little bit on that?
Okay, so I've done a video on this. I'm trying to remember everything that I said there. But now I'm thinking about so one thing, by the way, I've always believed that One Piece is such a popular series because it has so much stuff that, like, appeals in different ways, if that makes sense. So, like, I know, like, I think at the basic level, like, lots of people really love One Piece for, the feel-good shonen stuff. So, like, the lovable main character, like the Straw Hats, the backstories, the, like, really feel-good moments of, like, Luffy beating up people and stuff like that. So, like, the standard shonen stuff that I think One Piece does super-duper well for sure. So I think, like, most people really like One Piece for that. But then even if you don't like that, then there's always, like, the broader plot, right? Like, the world building, the bigger pieces and stuff like that, all these, like, the political conflicts, the Yonko Emperor's balance of the world, all that stuff, and, like, everything that Marineford was. So people can still really, really get in. Like, it's hard not to get, like, hyped by all of that stuff, even if you're not drawn in as much by some of the more, feel good, crying over going merry type stuff. And then I think, like, the last big thing in my mind is, like, the mysteries, because I think One Piece is really, really good at keeping you hooked on, like, long-running mysteries, and, like, there's so much stuff that, dude, like, I think that our community is, like, one of the most, like, it gets some of the most discussion out of any other anime manga communities that you'll see, period.
100%.
Like, and that's because there's so much to talk about, because there's so many questions people have, and, like, so much that you can sort of theory craft or try and figure out answers to. So I definitely think that, like, it is one of the strongest areas for One Piece, kind of, and it's hard not to say invested in the story because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. I think I also talked a little bit about this in my last bigger video on Kizaru, because Kizaru is, like, maybe to give, like, one example right from the start, Kizaru is, like, one of these characters. I guess characters is one category when it comes to mystery, but Kizaru is one of these characters that we don't know much about, and yet people are so excited about him, I mean, obviously he's an admiral, but so much about Kizaru is unclear. Like his justice, yeah. Okay, I'm shutting myself out. But yeah. But I think Oda is really good at creating characters. He doesn't even have the time to give them, like, a proper character arc, proper character development. So you might think these characters feel like they don't really belong in the story, or they're not fleshed out fully enough. But it's exactly the opposite. Like, it's like those characters that we see so scarcely, like a Shanks, like a Kizaru, like a Blackbeard. Like, those are the characters, like, the community is really excited about, just because there are, like, certain pieces we have about them that, like, tell us something about their character, but we don't really know how these pieces work together,
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of Kuma right now. That's, like, one of my top question marks in the series right now. Yeah.
Dude, and some of these characters, like, there was, like, just, like, a bug running across my legs.
Okay.
What's happening?
Sorry.
It's winter. Yeah. But like, yeah, Kuma definitely. But there's a bunch of characters we only know like a thing or two about, and it somehow manages, like Oda somehow manages to make use of each panel and create incredible hype and mystery at the same time for these characters. What's your take on that?
Dude, like, that's such a... Okay, like, let's say, so there's mysteries that are, what do you call, like, really... I guess it kind of is, like, how far back does it go? So, like, there's mysteries that are kind of, I guess, lore-based.
Oh,
if you know what I mean? Like, so there's, like, lore-based mysteries, so, like, I was seeing even in the, like, question marks, or, like, the questions that you asked for Wano Report, it's just skimming, like, Zunisha came up and stuff like that, and then there's always, like, Void Sentry, and then, like, what's the deal with the Noah ship and all that. Like, there's so many lore-based mysteries.
I think
we're still waiting on, like... Yeah, we're still waiting on, like, Uranus and, like, stuff like that. But then, then if you go into current day, then there's all these, like, I guess you could call them, if I were to categorize what you're saying, like, character-based mysteries, because we have so many, like, mysterious figures that pop up. And, like, yeah, even with Blackbeard, who we kind of know a lot about at this point, like, we feel like, or I don't know, we don't really know a lot about him. We've seen a lot of him. And we think we have like a good sense of what he's about, but we really don't know. Same with Shanks, who's shown up less than Blackbeard, but similarly, we should know more about him than we do and stuff like that. There's some character, and like Oda makes it like a good split, kind of, like, so for example, it's not true of every character. It's not just like, oh, there's a character we don't know a lot about him, that means it's a mystery. Like Mihawk, for example. Like Mihawk, he's a cool character, and he shows up once in a while, and we don't know a lot about him. But I don't feel like Oda has actually built up like a lot of mystery, like, it doesn't feel that important to know what Mihawk's backstory is or anything like that. Whereas with like a Shanks or a Blackbeard or a Kuma, like,
it's maybe
has done like
more based on strength.
Yeah, like Mihawk we kind of know, and I really like Mihawk as a character. But I'm saying like, with stuff like Kuma, like even Kuma, just after he did the nothing happened stuff, as he was sailing away, he said, "Your son has good friends, Dragon," or something. Just that throwaway line builds a lot of question marks. Like, dude, one of the most exciting characters to show up at this point is, like, Vegapunk. Just because we don't know anything about this dude, but everybody knows everything about this dude.
I mean, there's also, Bonnie. I feel like with characters, Bonnie, man.
Yeah, no, I'm just spitballing.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, there's a lot of characters. Even with Shanks and Blackbeard, you say we have seen a lot of them. I'm actually not so sure. I just think that give me a take on that, but I personally feel it feels like we know these characters quite well just because everyone's talking about them. But when you actually go and like research the times they popped up in the story, like for example Shanks, like the most we got of Shanks is like the first chapter of One Piece. And then we have him here and then popping up like on a random island, like reading the news, like celebrating with Ace, celebrating with Mihawk. Then we have obviously the big moment where he meets Whitebeard and where he stops the war, and where he meets the Gorosei. And I think that is pretty much everything we have gotten from him so far.
Yeah, no, okay. So, like, when I say we've seen a lot of them, at least it feels like we've seen a lot.
It does.
Outside the Straw Hats, we don't see a lot of characters that frequently or whatever, but, like, characters like Shanks and Blackbeard, because they have so much impact whenever they show up, like, it almost becomes like they command so much attention whenever they show up or whatever. It feels like we've seen a lot of them, and some of the most memorable moments, like Blackbeard versus Ace, or like Blackbeard stealing the fruit, or Shanks stopping the war and stuff, like those are around those characters. But no, you're definitely right. Like, we don't know a lot about them. So like, there's so many question marks going back to these characters, and then we know that like a lot of their storylines, like we keep saying Shanks and Blackbeard, but like the mysteries around them probably tie back a little bit to each other, basically. Even Gold Roger, same way or whatever. Like, we've seen so much and heard so much about him, but like we still have so many question marks about his story. And then like, yeah, I don't know, like there's so many characters who have been popping up that we probably feel like we know a lot about, but we really, really don't at the moment. So yeah, One Piece is just really cool because, like, in terms of mystery, like, Oda can kind of pull mystery from anywhere. Like, he can pull mystery out of, like, the lore and stuff. So if we get a reveal, like, oh, this is what a road poneglyph is, or, oh, there's this thing called God Valley or something like that, those are new mysteries popping up. And then at the same time, like, there's characters, so, like, there's, like, a whole certain stories that have been happening that we don't know too much about, so then we want to know, like, how these things connect and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's... Yeah, you can definitely scale it in different directions. You can say there's, like, mysteries on the big scale of the overarching story structure, where you say, okay, what is actually the truth about the One Piece world? I think we talked about it with Roger a little bit last time. Like, we actually don't know. Like, it looks like the One Piece world might be fabricated, and what about the Void Century? Like, those are big mysteries that, like, are being poked at here and then, but, like, we still have no idea what it's actually all about. And then there's, like, these small mysteries, you know, where it's like, why does that character have that power? What is that character's true intention? We have smaller, like, we have the mystery, for example. There's actually so much stuff. Yeah, and so many different things. But, like, there's stuff that's overarching the entire story, right? With Blackbeard, who's obviously also an overarching villain. But we also have inside arcs. Obviously, a lot of mystery. I'm just thinking.
Wano, like, if you get, like, big story down to smaller story down to, like, even in Wano, like, how many. Wano's maybe an unfair example because Wano's mysteries go back to big scale mysteries.
It is tied.
Like,
it is tied.
Yeah, but even if you go to Dressrosa or something, like, while you're reading the arc, there's lots of question marks that are popping up. Like, what's the deal with the toys? I think everyone figured out who Kyros was. He was the toy soldier, like, pretty quickly or something, like, or at least I think most people in the community were figuring that out or something like that at some point. But still, there's lots of question marks that pop up and stuff. Dude, even stuff like, okay, wait, then maybe it's something like, if you go really far back, there's, like, ancient mysteries and stuff like that. Then there's lots of mysteries between, like, the last 40 to 20 years or something along those lines, between, like, what characters were up to then, including, like, the pasts of, like, Shanks and Blackbeard and stuff. Then if you get to the current story, there's, like, because it's such a lively, active world, there's question marks as to, like, what certain characters' motive, like, why did Shanks come to talk about a pirate with the Gorosei or whatever? But then there's also mysteries like, what are certain characters' intentions at the moment? Like, what is...
exactly.
Up till now, we didn't know X-Drake's intentions. We think we know Apu's intentions, stuff like that. And then lastly, like, even shit like Chapter... Because it's such a lively world and so much stuff is happening outside of our knowledge, like, Chapter 900... What was that chapter? The chapter that the Shichibukai got abolished? Do you remember that?
956, I think?
Yeah, it must have been 956, because that's the one. That chapter, remember there was, like, a bunch of newspaper reports about, but, like, nothing, all sorts of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember what all of those were at this point, but, I remember there were, like, 5 different mysteries that came out of just that chapter.
And it wasn't
like,
even
just that chapter.
Yeah, it was... I think it was, like you said, it was a bunch of news articles, and there was not a single one where you actually know what happened.
No, it was frustrating.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. I mean, character allegiances is, like, true intentions is, like, one of these things that obviously drive story intensely, because...
Yeah, what's up with Kyoshiro, for example? Like, there's still stuff like that, yeah.
Like, yeah, whose side is he on? Is he actually supporting the Straw Hats? Is he supporting Kaido and the Shogun? Is he doing his own thing? Stuff like that is just, like, since the characters drive the story so immensely forward, like, having mystery shrouded around characters is immensely fascinating, I guess, to many people. I think on the first glance, it might not seem that way, maybe. Like, for me personally, I love mysteries, like, what is the Void Century about, right? Like, stuff like that. Where it's about places, where it's about events, and so on and so forth. But in the end, it's the mysteries surrounding the characters, I think, that really drive our curiosity the most, in a way, you know?
It's easier to be, like, invested in, like, how many people say that their favorite character is, like, a Shanks or like, yeah, and it's more exciting, like, if that character shows up on the screen, then that means that, like, oh, this chapter, like, it feels more juicy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Versus, yeah. Like, and Kyoshiro, I'm still interested in, obviously.
Yeah. And what's so interesting, to maybe get into that a little bit more, from a more, I don't know, selective perspective, maybe. I think it's so interesting when you look, for example, at someone like Shanks or Blackbeard. You have 2 characters, and the common consensus in the community is Blackbeard, pure evil, Shanks, purely the good guy. And I think it is okay, so this would be a very unlikely twist. The Blackbeard isn't actually the bad guy, but I don't know, like he's done a lot of bad shit and like he's recruited these very dubious people into his crew. So we can assume that he's definitely the main villain in One Piece. The overarching villain at least. But at the same time, we don't know, like, is Blackbeard one person that's just evil? Is he multiple personalities, like some people say? Is he like, what's his true ambition? Is his true ambition to create chaos? Is it to find the One Piece? He wants to find the One Piece, but we don't know. Does he want to find the One Piece because he wants to get rich? Because he could do that, like he's already got gold and shit, or does he want to become the pirate king? Like, what's his true ambition actually?
Dude, but what's awesome is that, like, so that was already a big question mark that was running for a while. But then Oda dropped something like Rocks, who we clearly understand is, like, relevant, not related necessarily, but relevant to Blackbeard or whatever. And then that on its own opens up, like, a whole... Yeah, that opens up, because now if we know more about Rocks, then we learn more about Blackbeard. So now, like, there's this chain link that's been created. And super juicy, I read this on Reddit recently. I don't know if you've seen this theory go around or something like that, but, like, it would be really interesting. Now I almost feel mad that I read it, because I feel like the review would have been too cool. Supposedly, like, in terms of ages, Shanks, it would make a lot of sense if Shanks was actually Rox's son. Something like that. That sounds really, really, really interesting to me in my head. If Shanks was Rox's son, and, like, this is, again, not my theory. I don't know who posted it on Reddit, but the person who posted it on Reddit was saying something along the lines of, like, if you go back to, like, Roger's discussion with Garp, about, he was saying, like, a child doesn't bear the sins of its father or something like that, or, like, unborn, I don't know, something along those lines or something. Like, the argument was that, well, maybe that's because, maybe he knew Garp would be open to that because Garp had already seen Roger take in Rox's son after defeating him at the Battle of God Valley, because, like, that same logic that, like, the child holds no sins or something along those lines. That would be really cool in my mind. It'd be really, really interesting.
That would be...
But anyway,
I mean,
that's another piece of the... like anytime Oda adds in new pieces of the puzzle, it always, like again, like, as I was saying, like, Kuma was a big question mark character, for example. And Bonnie was a big question mark character because we knew that she was such, like a coveted figure by the world government. She has an interesting power and stuff like that. And then, like, Oda links them together and says that, okay, these two characters are actually, they have a history or something like that. So then that just, like, compounds it and then makes it more like, well, what the hell is their story and everything like that? And then why is it important to the story? And I think, like, one of the big things that makes, like, One Piece so good is that, it's easy to have a story with, like, lots of mysteries and stuff like that. Like, I never watched Lost, but this is a lot of what I heard from Lost, that, like, lots of questions would come up and stuff like that. But what's cool about One Piece is that we get the sense that everything is connected. Like, it's not just haphazard stuff. And I think throughout the story so far, we, like, every time we learn something new about the Poneglyphs, I know you're talking more so about character stuff, but if we go to lore, every time we learn something new about the Poneglyphs, it does connect to previous information. When we learn more about the history of characters, like, it does connect to previous information. Like, we can see, like, how, like, Vegapunk is linked to this and then that. And then, okay, Caesar worked with him here, and then Caesar worked with Sanji's dad here. And, like, we can kind of see lots of things just connecting and stuff like that. So that's what's really important, because lots of mysteries without, like, without it tying up just makes for a bad story, in my opinion.
Dude, 100%. What I think is really what distinguishes a great story or a good story from a great story, in my opinion, is, especially when it comes to mystery, right, is that with One Piece, similar to many other stories, it feels like these mysteries spread out. Like, you have the main red line from the story. Like, the story goes from A to B. That's the main storyline. And then you have a lot of, like, branches off. So you have side arcs and you have side storylines. And you feel a lot of the mysteries just appear, and they're, like, just a branch, the tip of a branch that just, like, are created by Oda as the story goes along. And I think there's a lot of stories where these mysteries are they just stay there, and they're just, like, spicing up the world a little bit, and it makes the world building a little bit more interesting. But in Oda's case, I feel he so far has managed with... He has set most of the really interesting mysteries in the story set up, like you said, to tie back in together. So they're not just loose endpoints along the road, but they're actually going to become relevant at some point in the story again.
No, yeah, you're right. It like keeps on branching and becoming more complex, but it still fits together.
Yeah, so it's like random things, like where old characters pop back up, where old connections pop back up.
Yeah, it happens
like
so
that.
much. Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting, and it makes you wonder, like, things we also talked last podcast about the moon, for example. Like, that is something that has basically, it's like one of these mysteries where you're like, okay, you have a story arc that in general is a little bit outside the story arc itself, because it literally takes place in the sky. Like, it's like an excursion almost that the Straw Hats do, and it almost, in retrospect, in many ways, Skypiea feels a little bit like preparing the audience for what's to come in the story, because we have NL, who is on a completely different level in theory than everyone on the crew, and like Luffy's just able to handle him because of their compatibility of their devil fruit powers. But in general, we had the foreshadowing of observation hockey. We had the problems with the Logia devil fruit users. So a lot of that stuff. And then with the moon, like, that is something I think is so interesting. It was dropped like as that fact, and it felt like something, okay, that is just like one of these big mysteries in One Piece, where you say, okay, there's actually, like, the Shandorians have come from the moon and there's still people on the moon.
And it just fits, like, I don't know, like, or it opens up at least a lot more questions, basically.
It does.
Like, it fits some stuff, but then it opens up a lot.
It feels like one of these points where you think is at least very likely, I feel, that in some way or form will become relevant in the story again. Like, whether it's that Enel's coming back to Earth, or the moon literally as a location plays a role in the story. Like, it could be a lot of things, but, like, I expect certain things to be tied back by Oda back into the story, just by how he already has tied certain things back into the story.
No, I definitely, I definitely believe that it all connects in, like, some crazy, gigantic, overarching way in the end. Alright. So, do we have anything more we want to say on this point? Because I think that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good for... So we swear we didn't plan that.
No.
We planned it 5 minutes before. The last thing maybe I'd like to talk to you about is, do you like, without having any material right now in front of you, do you have an idea or a theory how Oda manages to take just a couple of panels for these types of characters, like a Kizaru, like a Blackbeard, like a Shanks, and create that amount of mystery and hype out of just showing them for a panel or two every other 100 chapters, basically?
Okay, so I think part of it is because, one, it's easier when, like, we know Oda paints a character. So, for example, we take Aokiji, right? So we know Aokiji is, it helps if we already know that they're a very significant figure in the world, right? Admiral on the loose and everything like that. And we know bits and pieces of what happened, so he fought with Akainu, etc. And we know a little bit about his character, and, like, we have some guesses as to his overall motivations and what he wants from the world, but it's not that clear. But then, what helps is basically when we know some of their motivations to a degree. I would put him in the same category as, like, a Shanks, a Blackbeard, a Kuma, maybe a Bonnie, I guess. But, like, these characters who we know enough about them that we feel like we have a gist of the character and stuff like that, but we don't know exactly what their more direct goals are, or, like, what their direct purposes are. Like, I don't know exactly what Aokiji wants in the world and stuff. Some people still say that it makes sense for him to be a, undercover agent, whereas in my mind, personally, I think that would make no sense, because I think that, like, he would strongly be just against the idea of working with Akainu's type of justice in general, or being a part of the Marines in general. And that's the thing, like, there's a big divide over whether Aokiji could be this or that, because we know a general gist of his ideology and what he wants, but we don't hardcore know exactly what he wants. But then on top of that, the other really cool thing is that, again, it's compounding stuff, so it's because Oda has all these other things going at the same time, that, like, so we know Aokiji's on the loose, but then once we hear that, okay, Aokiji's supposedly in some shady stuff, as Doflamingo hints or something, and then we find out that he's joined the Blackbeard Pirates, and we know that what the Blackbeard pirates are up. So then that kind of compounds it basically, because Oda's able to connect this character's question marks to even more question marks, because like we have a general idea of what the Blackbeard pirates are up to, but we don't know exactly what they're up to. And now we know that Aokiji for some reason is allied with the Blackbeard pirates. So then it like becomes really a big question. So then it is like, okay, is he still working with the Marines, or is this generally what he wants to do, or is he trying to take down Blackbeard from the inside and stuff like that? So I don't know, I think he's just really good at these significant, like even a dragon, for example. Like Dragon, I think I know his overall, but I don't know why. And because we don't know why, that opens that up to a lot of other questions. And like again, like even just finding out that Dragon might be connected to, he was at Gold Roger's execution. What does that mean for his character and stuff like that? So,
yeah, I definitely agree. And I think what makes it work so well is, like, in that context also, is that Oda has the luck of having imagery. I think, like, the two of us usually come from a strong storytelling perspective when we do our analysis. But what is actually like the big distinction, or what sets manga so far apart from like just a regular light novel or a thriller or whatever, is that we actually have the visuals on which large parts of the story are placed upon. And so we have a Shanks cloaked in black, meeting the Gorosei.
Oh, true. Yeah,
it's like
or Aokiji, the way he looks
exactly,
and stuff like that.
It's like Aokiji with his scar. Like it's different if you, I guess, maybe in the hands of a lesser writer, this could play out as a disadvantage, because it might like destroy certain expectations or your imagination when it comes to something you could describe in a hype way in text. But Oda actually manages, I think, at least in these types of characters, he really manages to draw an image that gets people excited. If it's Kaido's reveal, like these are things that are visually impactful. You know what I mean?
And Oda's like a good, like I've always said, like he's not the best artist. Like if you said like pure technical ability, he's not the best artist, but but there's a difference between like technical drawing ability and like imagery, basically. Like you can create really strong impact. Like you can be an artist who's like twice as good as Oda, but not come up with like the
most detailed shading.
Or like the sky splitting and stuff. Those are really strong, impactful images that you don't need to be most technically precise to create and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Although of course that helps.
And I mean, it also probably helps that these type of characters are also placed in certain categories where we at least assume that they have an immense amount of power, especially compared to the rest of the world. So that definitely like we're all expecting a Shanks to be super strong, and like a Kizaru to be super strong, a Blackbeard obviously, like, and maybe if you want, I think that would be like an interesting transition maybe into another topic I'd like to talk to you about. Sure. I mean, we have talked about this before, so it might not be as excessive, but I think it's still very interesting. What do you think about the fact that we still haven't seen a lot of characters in One Piece, especially the super strong ones, saying the Yonko and the Admirals and so on and so forth, and Dragon, that we actually have never seen them in a fight going full out?
Dude, I mean, like, that's just, that's just Oda being a tease. That's just, I mean, you maintain that hype, obviously, by, like, that hype gets maintained by only showing us bits and pieces of it, right? So, like, saving it for the end, like, if you want to make the ending as exciting as possible, and saving it for the end game makes it, like, Marineford was the closest we saw to many of the strongest characters in the series going at it. And it was largely, basically, if you had to boil it down, it was, like, the Admirals and Whitebeard, and then Commanders as well, I guess, but, like, and Mihawk was there, obviously. But we only saw glimpses of their power, and like it's like, well, Whitebeard's old and stuff, and the Admirals, we felt like they didn't do as much as they could have, maybe or something.
They definitely didn't really go all out, I'd say. Like,
it's not like Akainu could have beaten Like,
Yeah.
but like, you know what I mean? Like, we could have seen more from them.
So
or something
yes,
like that.
so I mean, yeah, like have we seen? Okay, so I had recently a comment where people were. I think we talk about power scaling here and then, and like we actually say that
Yes. Yeah.
that it's hard
No,
to
I
do,
mean,
and
no,
then
I'm a closeted power scaler, so
Yeah. yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but like what I'm just saying is that a lot of the power scaling out there just doesn't make sense because we don't know anything about it. And then
yes,
I read a
we need
comment that was
more.
like, "Oh, maybe you guys just suck at power scaling." I'm like, dude, how do you want to power scale someone when you never actually see them fight at their full? Like, it's not possible to say, "Oh, Shanks is definitely stronger than I don't know Big Mom," when we have literally never seen Shanks do anything else than like do some Congress hockey clash with Whitebeard and stop a Kainu's fist. Like it gives us an idea that Shanks is not a Yonko for nothing, but I can't derive from that he's gonna beat Big Mom, right? The same way that we have never seen Big Mom do anything else than slap Luffy away and like have like a clubbing hello with Kaido. That was
Yes,
pretty much
yeah.
everything we had from her.
Like, as far as I can understand people wanting to. I guess the big one that often comes up is like admirals versus Yonko, and that's an example of basically, dude. It all comes down to, in my opinion, okay. What you said is definitely correct, which is that we have not seen so many of these top tiers like actually go at it basically with each other, right? And in my opinion, like a big part of it comes down to the ambiguity of Whitebeard at Marineford also, because that kind of creates the debate between like that one arc create like that's the arc where we got the most, but it also left us with the most questions because Whitebeard, how strong was he at that time comparative to other Yonko, and then that kind of dictates your opinion of basically how all of the everything else falls into place. Because some people are like, well, he's the same as the other Yonko. Some people are like, well, he's much weaker. Some people are like, he was the strongest even then, etc. And then based on your opinion on that, then that dictates, okay, well, the Admirals seemed like this to me, and we only got glimpses of him versus the Admirals. Like, I still see people debate, like, how Akainu versus Whitebeard actually went. So then that turns into your own, like, it becomes a large series of, like, personal opinions on, like, what the portrayal was actually like, or what Oda wanted us to take away from it. Which then spirals into today's stuff, which is basically like, okay, so Fujitora would just, he's not even in the same league as this character, versus like, okay, Mihawk must be in the same, like, equal to, do you know what I mean? Like, Marineford, it showed us enough glimpses to, like, give us a really strong idea. I think everyone came away with, like, okay, Yonko commanders are really strong, admirals may or may not be as strong as Yonko, but we can't quite tell, and then people's opinions just become more and more set over time. So I think it's just going to come down to basically like we just need to see more action. Basically, I won't create a power scaling list till we see some top tiers go at it.
I think we can
I
definitely.
thought we were gonna at Reverie, but then we didn't.
After
So.
Wano, I think like we can definitely say
Yes.
a lot. Probably like I would be surprised if we wouldn't be able to say a lot more about certain characters and where they
for
stand
sure.
in relation to each other. But I also, for example, I still don't believe that any of the admirals showed us their full potential. Obviously, during Marineford. I mean, what did Aokiji? He basically froze the ocean. Okay, we had seen that before, but that's not him fighting at full strength, right? Then we saw Akainu. Okay, he was a little bit more relentless. He went on to fight head to head with Whitebeard, but he also like all of them really limited. Like judging from Punk Hazard, where we just saw the aftermath of two admirals really going all out. Like it shows us that all like I mean Kizaru didn't do anything pretty much.
No,
He was just chilling, and like also I mean I don't want to rationalize it from that direction, but you could also say obviously the admirals are not going to awaken the Logia fruits if they're going to collateral damage, like if they're taking the entire Marines as a collateral damage in that fight, for example. Then again, you have a Whitebeard who's taking on being able to take on these three admirals, but at the same time seems to be in a very weakened state. You have stuff like that. With Kizaru, I mean, like I said in my video, like basically just judging from his fruit, he would be in theory the strongest character in the story, just if you were like physically accurate. But then of course he's probably nerfed in some way. But we also don't know a lot about his strength. Like he could be the weakest admiral by all we know, but he could also be the strongest.
Yeah.
So
I don't think, like, and then that comes down to portrayal for a little, because we've seen so little of so many characters, then
Exactly.
we have to read a lot into, I guess, portrayal.
Then we're back
And,
at
like, I
mystery.
think it's easy. Yeah, and, like, Kizuro doesn't feel like he's been, even though on paper it seems like he has the strongest fruit, to me it doesn't feel like he's been portrayed with the same level as, like, an Akainu has, for
I'm
example.
not sure. Watch my video.
Okay, all right, I'll watch the video and see. But yeah, it just comes down to, I don't know. I think we're just gonna have to wait and see. Like I have my gut reaction thoughts on, like, you know, who the strongest characters are right now, or how the hierarchy plays out now and stuff like that. But, like, because I've seen people say that, you know, there's so, like, either you're really set in your tiers, you're like, Yonko are these beasts that are on a totally different level, then admirals are their own level, and then commanders are their own level, or you're blurring the lines and you're saying, like, okay, well, I think Akainu crosses over here, or I think Marco crosses over into admiral level and stuff like that. And, like, it just depends how you see it, and I think we just need to see more interactions of people going more all out over a longer period of time before we can all say it conclusively.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I think
I have my own opinions that I'm just not gonna kind of share into, because I don't want to be wrong. So I'm gonna wait till we get.
No, be wrong.
You know,
share it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's not even I don't want to be wrong. It's just like anything I say here is gonna get, like, a lot of flack in the comments and stuff like that. I would rather just see some more.
You guys in the comments are nice, right? You're not gonna. Okay, give us, like, one example.
Okay, so one example, I think, for example, what do you call? Oh, one more question mark that I'll say is still up in the air, by the way, for me is Yonko commanders. Some people seem to think that it's like first mate, second mate, third mate, or third mate is whatever that. You know what I mean? Like Yonko commander 1, 2, 3. Some people seem to think that, well, those are tiers in and of themselves. Whereas I, for example, I personally don't think Cracker was that far off from Katakuri. I would still call them in the same general tier, personally. And on top of that, I don't know if it varies from crew to crew.
Exactly.
Like,
That's what I would have said.
Yeah, like, couldn't it be possible that, like, you know, Shanks's, like, Lucky... Well, no, I that feels weird to say, saying Lucky Roo might be equal to Katakuri or something, but, like...
yeah.
It's hard to say. Like, maybe Jozu could go toe-to-toe with like, I mean... Or maybe some people think Jozu's really weak, actually, because of what happened with Doflamingo. Right. But, like, I'm just saying that it's not necessarily the case that, like, Smoothie is equal to each of the other. She's in the same tier as all the other second commanders.
Yeah. Same thing with, I mean, we haven't seen Smoothie also go, like, in a 1v1 all out. I personally would say that that's the case, though, that, like, each Yonko's crew is different, because Shanks' crew is fundamentally different from...
Yeah, we've talked about this before a little bit.
Him and Blackbeard have, like, their own kind of crew structure that mirrors, like, Luffy's. That is, like, that system, and then I would say Big Mom is rather her just, like... It seems like they might just be ordered by age, like, by which child they are. Then for Kaido, I think it's the most likely, since you actually have that number system and the card system. That sounds like Kaido sounds like someone who might, like, let his best fighters, like, sprawl it out, you know, and, like, have, like, a brawl for the top spots. So I think it really comes down to every crew individually.
Okay, I'll just share my, why not? I'll share my quick power scaling view, basically. So I view, I kind of go by Luffy as the standard, because we've seen him fight the most, so I think it's easiest to use him as the standard. And I go by Luffy Gear 4th. Yeah, let's just say Luffy's Gear 4th, I guess, kind of. And not how he is today, because we don't really know. Suppose he's been training his armament hockey or whatever in prison and, like, getting buff, as we all see. So I won't count him as he is today. I'll say, like, I don't know, like, Gear 4th Luffy as he left, No, let's say Gear 4th Luffy as he was in Dressrosa or something like that, alright? So if we use that as the standard, what I would think is basically something like everybody that is in his general ballpark. I view tiers as very wide, to just be generous, because we haven't seen a lot. I'd say everyone who's in his general ballpark, like, I would say that ranges from Doflamingo up to Katakuri, even. Like, Gear 4th Luffy was struggling with Katakuri even before he advanced his observation, but he wasn't struggling, like, he was doing better than before. Like he landed some hits on Katakuri. He was still getting outfought and everything like that, but he was doing better than before. And then you can swing that the other way with like Doflamingo is the opposite. Like Doflamingo was really struggling with Gear 4th Luffy, but he held on for about 20-ish minutes or something like that. So like I view that as a very broad general ballpark. I would say that like that's the overall range of like Gear 4th Luffy, sort of. Like I view that as the Yonko Commander broadish tier. Then above that, I do think Admirals kind of fall into a different tier than Yonko. Personally, but I would say there's like tight overlap. Like I could see Akainu technically being Yonko or something like that, just because of what happened in Marineford. But then in that case, I would have to say Aokiji is, just because he's so close to Akainu and stuff. Or maybe that's where the line is drawn or something like that, and it's a really small line or something. But like, yeah, I would say, in my opinion, like Admirals at that time would have solidly beaten Gear 4th Luffy, but it would have been like he would have put up a challenge for them at least a little bit, like similar to what we saw. Jozu at least gave Aokiji a bit of trouble for a little bit, kind of, but not too much trouble really. Or like Marco gave Kizaru, like they could put up a fight. It wasn't just like they rolled over and died or whatever. And then basically against a Yonko, I feel like, as we saw with Kaido, Gear 4th Luffy loses pretty quickly, pretty much. So that's kind of the sliding scale if I view those three tiers. Then things below that, I have my views on too, but that gets like really nitty. Oh, I think that there's like a nice solid tier that I call under Yonko commanders, basically.
Okay.
Which is like...
Well, like the Shichibukai?
I wouldn't call it Chichibu, because then Mihawk's like way above it, for example. And right. Doflamingo I still put into that Yonko commander tier and stuff.
Right.
Like, I'd say, like, for example, to me, Law. I don't think Law is Yonko commander level. I would put Law there. I would put Zoro there. I would put Sanji there. Out of respect, I would put Sanji there. I would have put Ace there, basically.
Wasn't Ace a Yonko
there.
commander, though?
Yeah, but all 16 of Whitebeard's commanders are. You know what I mean? In my mind, Whitebeard, I count Marco, Jozu, Vista. Then I put Ace right underneath them, basically, in my opinion. Yeah, I put Jinbei there. Yeah, basically guys who have, like, I would say all of these characters very strong, but I think they all get rolled over by Gear 4th Luffy. I wouldn't put them in the same tier as him, basically.
Yes.
So that's how I view it.
What's your take on the Revolutionaries? Do you have any thoughts or any headcanon for that?
I put Sabo in the Yonko commander tier for sure. I think he was stronger than Gear 4th Luffy as of Dressrosa. Don't know where he's at now. And that
he's probably
I put I put Eva in that tier that I talked about a second ago, right under Yonko commanders. This might sound controversial, but I put Kuma there too. I know people consider Kuma to be stronger, but I've never seen, because as far as I know, Kuma has a very strong fruit, but I've never seen him actually
fight with it.
Fight against. So I'm not gonna put him in that same. Like you can have, like, Law has a very strong fruit. I don't think he's not as strong as Doflamingo or Gear 4th Luffy or like a Katakuri or any that, or Sabo. I don't put, like, having a strong. You can have a strong fruit in One Piece and not be there, basically. Yeah. So Kuma has a very strong fruit, but even just from the flashbacks we were shown, it seemed like Eva had more authority in the Revolutionary Army than Kuma, personally. And I might be totally wrong on that, but I'm just not. I don't just give Kuma that, like, that's hype, I guess, until I actually see him in combat. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, well, yeah. I view the Revolutionaries over. I put Dragon as a Yonko level. I don't know. And then once you get further and further down the list, I stop thinking about, like, how strong certain characters are. I just have these 4 broader categories and stuff like that.
I mean, it makes you really excited also, I guess, for the character growth that the Straw Hats will have in Wano also. Like, I think it's going to be super exciting to see where Luffy stands now after all his training. And I think it's probably going to be like a mini time skip style. fight sequence, in my opinion, where it's like, okay, you had the ultimate defeat for Luffy, first being defeated by Kuma, then being defeated by the admirals, basically, like not really being able to put up with them, obviously. And then he had the time skip. He trained immensely, and then we started off with enemies. Up until Doflamingo, we started off with enemies for Luffy, where he basically could show off how much he had grown now and how easy it was him to take on Logia users like Caesar without a problem, take on like physically with the fishmen, so on and so forth. So I expect for the once the real battle begins in Wano, I expect that to be Luffy not going all out against Kaido right from the start, but it's basically gonna be Luffy fighting against a Yonko commander, or like something like that.
By the way, I'm weird. I personally still believe that Luffy fights Jack, although I think nobody thinks this at this point. Mostly because Luffy said that he's gonna fight Jack like a while back, and I feel like Jack would be a quick test for his armament haki, just because Jack seems like a very durable type of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't even go Gear 4th. Maybe Luffy's so strong now that he can beat Jack without Gear 4th, and it's a strong test of his armament haki or something like that. But I don't know.
What I was a little bit sad about now in retrospect, well, it's not really a big deal, but I think it was really important for Luffy to get one-shotted by Kaido, so we had a reference point for his level. Once he faces off with Kaido again, we will have a much better grasp of how much Luffy has grown, and obviously, I think nobody expect Luffy to just dominate Kaido in a fight, but there's definitely we're gonna see that Luffy in some way or form has caught up a little bit.
Yes.
I think.
Oh, dude.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just thought it would have been nice if we had gotten a little bit better idea of where the other Straw Hats stood. We got some Sanji action, so I'm sure we're gonna have something to compare there. We got some Zoro action, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of Zoro focus here. Just for the other characters, I think having a small brawl for a Robin, for a Nami, for I think even the characters we saw in Whole Cake Island, maybe that's okay because we saw them in action. So a Brook, a Nami, but especially for characters like Frankie or Usopp, who we haven't seen since Dressrosa, it would have been interesting to get a marking point in Wano for them.
Dude, Frankie's such a question mark because in theory he's really strong.
He should be super strong.
Yeah, he should be super strong. Yeah, but he's got.
I'm gonna show myself out again. No, I didn't even think about that.
Got such an arsenal and stuff like that. But wait, question then. Since I just shared my thoughts or whatever, how do you view it?
Power scaling. Oh, dude. I don't really. Okay. Well, I guess I have my slight head canon. But I'm really not someone who thinks about it too much because I don't want to rationalize it too much, but I'm personally, like I said, I'm someone saying, okay, we haven't seen any of these characters really in any serious action, so it's really hard to say. I personally am someone who is a big fan of saying titles don't mean anything except if you're a Yonko.
Okay.
So I'm saying if you're a Yonko,
even Admiral?
You're definitely top tier level. You're in a different league than any other character in One Piece, with maybe the exception of someone like maybe a dragon who we don't know anything about, maybe an Im. And then everything below that for me could basically be put in a jar and wiggled in a certain bit, and every time there would be a certain distribution, but it might end up a little bit different with every matchup, So I think that the commanders of each Yonko are very are not really comparable in many ways. I think some crews like you said like Big Mom, she has a small number of commanders, but I think they're all pretty strong and on a pretty equal level. Then for Kaido, you have with the numbers, now we know he has a dozen of commanders basically, but it's to be expected that they have a variety of strength as well. Then of course we have someone like Blackbeard or Shanks, who have basically crews that are just made to fight each other. They probably are also all over the place, Whitebeard's crew, Whitebeard's commanders also all over the place strength wise. Where you feel with Whitebeard, for example, I feel just because you're a commander on the Whitebeard crew doesn't mean you have a certain level of strength. I think it, like with Whitebeard in particular, it also has something to do with loyalty and how long you've been part of the crew. So and the same when you go with the Shichibukai and the admirals. I think there might be a lot of overlap. I think like you said exactly. I just think that this overlap is maybe a little bit bigger than in your headcanon. So for me, the spread from a buggy to I mean, okay, buggy's maybe not fair to put in there.
Yeah.
But still like you have such a variety of different abilities from a Boa Hancock to a Mihawk to someone like Jinbei. I think that the borders between all these groups are a lot more fluent than people like. I think it's easy. I think it having these names invites you as a reader to compare, right? Like, obviously it's easy to compare Yonkos and to compare admirals to another, and it's easy to compare Yonko commanders, but I think that there in reality is more overlap than we like to think, and I'm also a big advocate for how important a situation, like external circumstances, are who beats who, like a Jack might beat a Smoothie if they're just like brawling somewhere in the desert of Wano, just because Jack runs her over. But then like if they're on a ship, or like if like the circumstances might be a little bit different, and suddenly Smoothie beats Jack. Same goes for a lot of other characters, right? So many of the powers, especially in the top tier level, are the Devil Fruit powers, but also like personal preferences are so specific and so situation specific that I think there's a lot of overlap there. And then of course there's, like I said, the Yonko, maybe the admirals, where you say like, okay, well, yes, they have Devil Fruits, but like they're just strong in general, like their hockey alone and so on and so forth would already all like they're not dependent on their fruits so much. So then there's a bigger distinction. But yeah, so that's my take on that.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I think we're gonna have to wait and see, basically, more so, because I'm not interested in like getting into the nitty gritty of.
I personally definitely expect. I don't expect. Do you? Okay, let me maybe flip the question on you. Do you expect, especially on the Fire Festival example, do you feel it will be very orderly, as like that Oda sets up very orderly, that you have like one scabbard fights one number, and one straw hat fights one commander? Or do you think it's just be all over the place?
Yeah, okay, so I view it as okay. So again, I still don't view the Fire Festival as the final battle, personally. If it is, I think whatever the final battle of Wano is, I think the ending will be similar to Dressrosa, where things do line up such that, we get a domino effect of 1v1s, because I think Oda still likes that style of writing. But I think if the Fire Festival is not the final battle, then it'll be more like Marineford, where anybody can be matched up like anybody. You'll see quicker fights and stuff like that. So not no prolonged 1v1s, basically. Except for maybe curious. Like Luffy versus Kaido might be another chapter. Right. Like that.
Yeah, I'm still curious because I'm still super on board with your theory. Like I'm super convinced also
I'm on board
that
too. All right, solid.
There will be, because I really also really like the idea of there being two battles, where you have like one arc-specific battle on Onigashima, where it's Big Mom Kaido versus Scabbards, Wano people, Straw Hats, and that goes one way or the other, gets diffused. And then you have the actual chaotic battle, where you have like Whitebeard pirates coming in, Marines coming in, whoever. I really like that idea. I'm just curious at this point how long the flashback with Oden is actually going to be, and if like I'm a little bit afraid, quote unquote, that Oda might take Oden's flashback as an entire act of Wano, as a short act.
Oh man, okay, how far are we? When did this act start, dude?
Six chapters in or something. We're like at 64, right? And it started at
must have started at 60.
59, 58, 59, I think. Okay. So like the 6 chapters.
How long was Act 2? Act 2 is like...
Ooh, it was long ago. 30, 40 chapters.
Okay, so let's say... Okay, so I've checked this recently. I think Marineford overall was 30 chapters or something like that.
Really? Only?
Yeah, dude, Marineford was shorter
Ooh,
than
that sounds short.
than I remembered. Yeah, but it I remember because I saw this recently because I was trying to recently I was thinking how long is
Right.
the Wano thing going to be. So I was checking Marineford I think chapter like 550 something it started, and then Shanks stopped the war at 580 sharp.
Right.
So it was actually maybe less than 30 chapters or something like that. But and if the Fire Festival is not the final battle, then I expect it to be even shorter. So I would expect it to be like 20 chapters or something like that. Because Marineford, they had lots of like back and forth. It's like, okay, we make this step forward, then this step back, and then this step forward, this step back, etc.
Right, right.
If the Fire Festival is not the final battle, I expect it to be around 20 chapters. So, if, I don't know. Like, let's say Odin's flashback is like max 10 more chapters.
Right.
Even though I originally thought it was longer till we got a lot of montages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say let's say it goes to 20 chapters total. Then we get the Fire Festival stuff, which is another 20 chapters. So that makes for like an arc that's about...
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's Act 3. It's about the length of Act 2. But then, of course, if it's the finale, then, that's totally different than... But if it's the finale, then I would expect actually Act 3 ends with the flashback, and then Act 4 is the final battle, in my opinion.
Because, I mean, if the Fire Festival actually is the final battle, then that's obviously not going to be like a 20 chapter or 10 chapter thing. Like, then that's going to be a big thing. So 100%.
At least as long. I think it would be definitely longer than moving forward.
Guess that was a very good discussion. I guess let's flip over to some questions.
Some questions real quick. Some questions. All right.
as always, I'm prepared.
Let's try and do this quicker because I actually haven't eaten since morning.
Oh, then let's be qualitative about it.
Yeah.
As always. Wait. Do you wanna solve another Dritz riddle?
Oh shit. Okay, yeah, we'll start with this because it's an excellent question. Someone named Dritz the Dragdown asked, a box without hinges, key, or lid, yet golden treasure inside is hid.
Is it an egg? Isn't it like Lord of the Rings riddle? Can you read it again?
Oh, it's an egg? Oh, because golden treasure is like yolk?
Yeah, can you read it again though?
A box without hinges, key, or lid, yet golden treasure inside is hid.
Yeah, I think isn't that the Gollum riddle? I'm pretty sure that's from Lord of the Rings. I'm saying it's an egg.
Okay. I've read Lord of the Rings like a while back. I don't remember that. Okay.
I think it might be from The Hobbit actually.
Is it The Hobbit? Okay,
like
I've read The Hobbit.
Okay, so just like a quick disclaimer, I love One Piece.
Yeah.
But I think you know that already. But like I'm a huge Lord of the Rings geek, definitely. Like it's definitely my favorite story of all time. Like I've seen those movies and read those books over and over again.
Oh really?
Yeah.
The books were really good. I read them when I was younger. Like they were much better than I thought, and they were like as good as the movies were, which I had seen first.
Yeah.
The books were like they felt very different, if that makes sense.
Yes,
you know
what I mean?
Are
so I feel the books are amazing if you're already a fan of the series because the books are more of a documentary in a way, as a history book
detached.
than it is an actual.
It felt like detached reading them. Yeah, but it was very like interesting. Like those are some of my favorite books that I've read.
It's very detailed, very intense.
Yes.
It describes a lot of like so many small elements of the story world. And yeah, I mean, I love it. I love all of it. But yeah, it's very old English though. Like it you have to get used to reading it, I guess, a little bit. I'm not sure. I think it was like written around like the end of was it like the First or the Second World War? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was a dense text.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
but definitely very good. I would recommend it. I've never read The Hobbit, so I don't really know anything about it.
I
I've
mean,
watched the movies. I didn't like it.
The Hobbit is pretty light. I mean, the movies were... Let's not talk about that, but...
Okay. Oh, wait. Did the Gollum scene happen in the movies as well? Because I remember there was a... No, I remember him doing riddles with Gollum in that cave thing. I just don't remember any of the riddles.
Yeah,
so
it's in the book.
I guess this was one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically like Bilbo finds the ring, and then Gollum wants to kill him, so he challenges... Like, Bilbo challenges him to, like, a round of riddles. Yeah.
Okay, so the answer was egg. Did we get it for real this time?
I'm gonna lock in for egg, and then.
All right, I'll say friendship as my answer, and we'll see who's right.
Friendship.
You know what? Yeah.
What?
I feel like that fits too.
How does that fit? Because friendship
It's
doesn't have a keyhole.
It's a golden treasure inside.
What's the golden treasure?
I don't know what the box part of it is, but I feel like that's not as important.
What's the golden treasure?
Golden treasure is friendship.
But then, it's not inside friendship, is it?
The box is you. You're the.
Oh, I'm the solution to the riddle.
No, I'm saying people. So people, everybody has friendship inside of them, and so everybody is the box. And the golden treasure inside you is friendship. That's my answer. I'm locking it in.
I'm gonna let that count, just because it's beautiful.
All right,
but I like the positive vibe here. But
okay, was the answer that we gave last time correct?
I actually have no idea. I think Dritz never solved that. Dritz, you definitely have to let us know if that was correct or not. Was it like, what did you say? Was it like, I think I said vacuum.
Alright, so we don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, let us know if we're right or wrong. Let's maybe do Panda's question. Because I think there's not too much to... it's a short question.
Why was Sunisha punished?
Why do you think Sunisha was punished?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's...
I literally don't know.
It's fair to say that it's probably gonna have to do something with the Void Century, right? But Sunisha's older than that, right?
Is a theorist. Shouldn't he be telling us
That's
why
true.
Sunisha was punished?
That's true, Panda. So we're gonna flip that on you. You have to make a theory video on that, please.
Please tell me why was Sunisha punished. I don't know. I don't have a good theory.
I like this one here. Do you think that opening Wano means reversing the alleged process of Ors putting together Wano by basically ripping the islands apart?
Sounds like so much work. It sounds like so much work. How are they gonna... What?
They're gonna get Kaido to do it.
Kaido's gonna... Yeah, like...
Dude, Kaido...
If it means...
I know we just beat you, man, but like... will you be willing to like give us a hand here?
Drag these islands back to where they came from.
Like...
Oh,
yeah. I'm all good now.
One possibility, if I had to throw out a possibility, Shirahoshi can control Sea Kings to maybe do it if it needs to be done.
Man, that is like one of the other things. I completely like. There's so much going back to the mystery quickly for a 1 minute rant. There's like so many things I keep forgetting about that are actually still unsolved and are actually pretty exciting. Like the Sea Kings, like
dude, yeah,
that is something like they tie in somehow to the world, to the Void Century. I think we know that since they're connected to, like, they're basically connected to the ancient weapon and connected to Joy Boy in some way or form. And then there's the Noah arc. Sorry, yeah.
No, I'm trying to remember before. Oh, okay. What I was saying was, okay. What's interesting is when they, I read that I was making the theory video like a while back about the ancient weapons. I read that panel again where the Sea Kings stop Noah from falling, and they're saying like as they're swimming away or whatever, they're saying like, oh, the ship got damaged. Okay, we'll have to wait for that family to fix it or something, and that family's in like quotes or something like that. So that family, after a while, I was thinking it could be the Kazuki clan because, you know, they're good at that sort of thing.
Shit.
Building, handicrafts or whatever.
Maybe it's the Frankie family.
Or maybe it's the Frankie.
They could fix it.
The ancient weapons of the world, and Noah's tied to the Frankie family being able to fix this.
It's much older than we thought.
Yeah, so they go way back.
Yeah, there's some...
No, so I mean, that could be the Kazuki or whatever, which would be a really interesting tie back. And then on top of that, Caribou is in Wano right now, and he knows that, I don't know, so like, it seems too far-fetched at this point for me to think that like, the Fishman Island stuff could cross over into Wano. It seems like a little too much, basically. But now that this person mentioned, separating Wano back, and I just thought of the Sea Kings pulling it, I don't know. Might be connections there. It's hard to tell. Yeah. But yeah, lots of mysteries everywhere, right there.
What about Jinbei?
What about Jinbei?
What about Jinbei?
with any luck, he doesn't show up, but most likely he will. I definitely think Jinbei will show up in the arc. He might be their rescue route.
Yes.
Again, I always think with the context of like, oh, the fire festival is going to go wrong. So I'm like, well, Jinbei and his whale sharks or something like that could get him out of there if need be or something. So I don't really know.
I don't know. Okay, so I really like Jinbei, and obviously, if he was actually dead or something like that, that would suck.
But I don't think he's dead.
But at the same time, like him being the escape vehicle over and over and over again.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's just so like, just let the man stand next to Luffy and like fight someone. And
I think part of the reason, I mean, people have mentioned this, but like, Jinbei may have been too strong for a little bit to be part of the crew. I guess. I mean,
for some time, I could get on board with that argument, especially up until Whole Cake Island. That made sense. But Wano, I mean, we're talking about Wano.
I think he might join at the point that Zoro and Sanji are clearly ahead of him, if that makes sense.
Right.
That might be the only, if Oda wants to keep that. I don't know. That's the. I'm sure there's like broader story reasons for keeping Jinbei out of it at the moment, or maybe just to focus on the Straw Hats that we know on so far.
Well, okay, but then I ask you this: why make him join? Like, why make him a Straw Hat in the first place? Right.
It might just. Oh, like why make him a Straw Hat already?
No, why make him a Straw Hat in general? Like, why not? Like, if you don't want, if he's an inconvenience in your plot, why not just make him a strong ally of Luffy, who comes to his help, who's there for him, who, like, I don't know, is part of the Grand Fleet or whatever, who's like law.
I think the Fishman part of this whole story is like important to Oda or something like that, like to a degree, like that combining. So I think it was very important to Oda that like a Fishman be part of the Pirate King's crew, but then like the way he wrote it, he didn't. Like, that Fishman happened to be really strong, so having him join right after Fishman Island, like, I guess laying the groundwork for him to join in Fishman Island,
right.
And then just fully actually having him become a part of their adventures during Wano or moving forward from Wano. That's, if I had to logic it, I would say that.
Right.
Alright, we got You don't like that answer?
I don't know. I just... So I usually don't think that Oda is writing himself. I don't think he has written himself into a lot of corners so far, but I think like Jinbei is one of these things. It's not really a corner, but it's just he has created an inconvenience for himself in a way, maybe.
I read, okay, I'm pretty sure I read this in an interview before. Oda originally thought Jinbei was going to be a villain for Luffy to fight, but then after a certain point in the story, he thought it'd be more interesting to have him be an ally.
Right.
So I feel like there might be an alternate version of the story where instead of Horty Jones as the villain of Fishman Island, Jinbei was the villain of Fishman Island. But then when Oda thought of a more interesting story route to make Jinbei, this link between fishmen and humans, having seen both sides, etc., or something like that, then he toned that part of it down, came up with this Horty Jones and his lot or whatever, and then did that. I don't know, that's possible. Who knows how far back Oda decided Jinbei would be a villain, or would be a ally or whatever. Couple more questions, and then call it for this one if that's good. Because I'm hungry now.
Wanna? Let's just do one more.
I don't know if my stomach rumbled.
I don't want you to starve.
Oh, yes.
Let's see. Do you want something lighthearted, or do you want something thoughtful?
Let's get another riddle in there. Do we have another riddle?
We had enough riddles.
All right.
Okay, I like this question, and then you can pick a last one.
Okay.
Someone is asking iced coffee or iced tea, and I'm giving this to you because I think people know for me.
So you went with a serious question then. All right, that's cool.
Oh, that's a serious question?
Yeah. So, I mean, people should know at this point, if Ohara hasn't mentioned enough, he is a tea fan.
Yeah, I'm a tea maniac.
Drinks tea. Definitely iced coffee. So, I actually drink coffee quite a bit now because I'm tired all the time. and I work all the time, and I need coffee. Let me. Okay, so I get to pick the last one.
Yeah, if you want, you can pick one more.
Shit.
Silence.
Give me a second.
Yes.
Give me a
Take your
second.
time. Just what I'm gonna do in the meantime. Gonna take a big sip of my tea.
Okay. Okay, how about this one? Will any warlords join the Straw Hat Grand Fleet / the Straw Hat crew besides Jinbei? Because it's kind of on topic. So any of the other warlords joining the Grand Fleet, I guess.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure if it's like okay. I assume with joining the Grand Fleet, the person means fight with Luffy. I assume, because I mean that someone like Boa Hancock is definitely gonna join Luffy in his final fight. I think it's without a question.
Yeah. Okay, that was a straightforward answer then.
But
yeah. So I mean,
I wouldn't say that she joins the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. I don't know.
No. Yeah, there's a different, like, in my mind, there's countries that would come to Luffy's aid if needed, but that doesn't mean, like, Fishman Island isn't part of his Grand Fleet.
Yes.
It's just country under his flag or whatever. What about Buggy?
Mihawk.
You think Buggy's the...
Oh, I think, well, I like, by now, I actually think that Buggy will... I think Buggy's, like, one of the maybe more likely, more obvious twists that Oda might have in mind, that, like, he will actually end up playing a bigger role in the story in the end than we all thought. Like, the closer we get to Raftel, I think Buggy might become more important in the story again. And I think it's...
Remember you made the video on it. Yep.
Yeah. So I think... I'm not sure if Buggy will actually... Or actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm pretty sure that Buggy, if he's still alive, will fight with Luffy. Yeah.
Do you think it's part of the Grand Fleet or just in general?
I think it's just in general. Okay, so I'm gonna answer that I don't think that any other warlord is gonna become part of the Grand Fleet, but I think there's a couple of warlords that are very likely to fight alongside Luffy in the final war.
Okay, like allies versus Grand Fleet. Yeah. Actually, now that I'm thinking about, I haven't thought about it too much. I've this character might ally with them or that character might ally with them or whatever. But like, it's possible the Grand Fleet is set. Actually, you know what I mean?
Think?
Like. Okay, like
I think after Wano, I think there will be a couple of people joining the Grand Fleet, like the actual fleet.
No, that's true. It would be weird for it to just be set.
Yeah.
Like
the question is,
I don't know.
I guess you have to distinguish between people who, like, just will support Luffy because they want to take the world government down, also, and people who want to follow Luffy because they see him as.
Yeah. So, okay, no, actually, then maybe I do think that the Grand Fleet might be set in a degree, because, like, I view everybody who's in the Grand Fleet, I view everyone who's in the Grand Fleet, I guess, as, like, being Luffy's subordinate is, like, their most important role in the story, whereas, like, in my mind, like, even if you, let's say, for example, I don't know, like, one of the supernovas or something, like a Hawkins or something like that, even if they like Luffy, I still view them as carrying their own sort of, like, independent weight in the story.
Yeah.
So in my mind, like, most characters that we will meet from here on, or, like, most significant characters that we're going to meet from here on are going to be more so, like, independent figures who will join with Luffy rather than joining it under, like, you know, like, okay, we're Straw Hats and we're, like, worshipping you, kind of.
Maybe from a bit of a different perspective, now that I give it a bit more thought, I actually think that the concept of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet might actually only be relevant to an arc like Wano, where the Grand Fleet will end up, like, as the set fleet as it is right now, and, like, help the Straw Hats out in a quantitative way, you know, in a fight. Because, I mean, the final war is just going to be Luffy coming with a bunch of ships, and it's not going to be like, like, the second one from the left, third row behind, like, that's Grand Fleet, but you're not.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's totally... Dude, like, one of the... In my mind, I hope that there's a chapter like this in the future. It depends on if Oda is ever, like, if his editors let him waste a chapter like this. But I hope that, like, in the final arc or whatever final battle of One Piece, we get one chapter which is literally just like double page spread after double page spread of like
ships.
Yeah, of ships of like Luffy, like all of Alabasta lined up with Drum, lined up with this. But like, I'm not saying like just one. I'm saying devote the entire chapter to just showing like Luffy's entire squad,
just like
or
an
whatever.
epic chapter of introductions.
Yeah, just an epic chapter. Then like the last page can be just seeing them all lined up together or something like that. But
that'd be dope.
Yeah, I don't know if he would waste a chapter like that or something.
That would be amazing.
Or it would be really cool if it was like I don't know, if he's fighting whoever's in the final war, like I don't know, probably we can assume Marines probably, so maybe like each group is getting their own double page spread of like Marines lined up, all the Marines lined up, all the Revolutionaries lined up or something, and then like for Luffy's group it's just like 5 double page spreads in a row because his group is so big or whatever. And it's just one entire chapter of like showing the entire lineup.
That would be really cool.
Because I don't know, it would be like a cool way of showing like just how big the story's gotten at this point.
I love it.
But yeah,
I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I don't want you to starve. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was it felt more professional for some reason. I'm not sure. What's your thoughts? I don't know. We actually thought about what we wanted to do this time, and I think it turned out pretty interesting.
No, it was cool.
So it was fun doing like an improv analysis. If you guys like that, let us know. Then we can definitely do that again in the future. Next week we're gonna have a chapter again. So we have
next week. Next week I'm not sure because I'm in India for a wedding for the next 2 weeks. So I might be out of commission for Wano Reports depending on how busy I am. But I'll let you know. I might be able to do next Sunday.
We'll see.
No, actually, no. Next Sunday I'm on a plane. Sorry, next Sunday I'm literally on a plane. So no Wano Report then. The week after that, no. 2 weeks. No, 3 weeks, 3 Sundays from now, I might be able to do a Wano Report. I know I can't do next Sunday or the Sunday after that. So sorry about that.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry. 1 second. What am I talking about? Because I'll be in India, and I'll be on India time, we'll have to see how that lines up with Germany time, but it might make it more convenient to do a report at some other time or something.
I mean, we don't even have to settle for Sunday.
Yeah, I forgot about that, too. All right.
Well, there might be an episode next week, or there might not be.
Yeah, I might be occupied or whatever, but yeah.
Well, thanks anyway for listening. Definitely, again, big thank you to Revujo for the amazing thumbnail. And otherwise, is there anything else we want to say? Yeah, keep your eyes open for the podcast on other platforms, though we're definitely gonna make that an announcement once that launches. And yeah, feed us with feedback for the podcast, feed us with your thoughts on what we talked about. Leave us a few comments, leave us a like also, so that this podcast gets a bit more traction. And otherwise, we hear you next week. No, not maybe next week. Maybe not.
No, I don't know. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.